Hello everyone, welcome back to the Country Living Homestead. Today we're going to be talking about getting started in chickens, so stay tuned. So we know a lot of people are thinking about getting chickens for the first time this year, and we think that is absolutely awesome. And having your own chickens can be one of the best experiences, especially if you pick the breed that's going to be right for you right from the beginning. There's really nothing like getting fresh eggs right from your own yard. Pretty amazing. And if you're anything like us, you don't have to settle for just one breed. You may find that you want to select a couple of different breeds to add to your flock. However, there are a few things that you might want to know before you jump into getting chickens. The first thing you're going to want to think about when you get chickens is, what are your goals? Do you want birds to provide your family with just eggs? Or do you want birds that can provide your family with both meat and eggs? And if you want both meat and eggs, that's going to be more of your dual purpose breeds of chicken. If you want chickens that are just going to lay an abundance of eggs, then that's fine too. And there are definitely some breeds that would be perfect for that. But it's really important to know what you want before you jump into getting a specific breed. Now, once you have realized your goal, either eggs, meat, or both, the next thing you're going to want to do is figure out what qualities are important in a chicken breed. And this is going to vary depending on your situation. Some people are going to want to free range their chickens primarily. So they might be looking for a chicken with great foraging skills. Other people may plan on penning up their chickens full time in their coops and runs. In that case, you're going to want a chicken that's going to bear confinement well. Not all of them do. And you might, if you have a lot of small kids on your farm or coming to visit, you might want a chicken breed that's really known to be friendly. So take some time to think about not only what you want your chickens to provide you, but some characteristics that are going to be important for you and your farm. So once you've worked out what you want from your chickens and certain traits that are important to you, the next step is going to be to actually purchase your chickens. And how will you do this? Well, there are a couple of different ways you can do this. You can get hatching eggs, and there could be local farmers around you that have hatching eggs. Some hatcheries have hatching eggs, and you could hatch them yourself. For this, you would need an incubator, and I really don't recommend this if you're new to chickens and have never incubated before. So that might be something that's a good option for a more experienced chicken keeper. The second option you have is getting day-old chicks from a hatchery. This is probably, I would say, one of the most popular options. You can get them delivered through the mail, and they come as day-old chicks. You can also sometimes find them at feed stores like Tractor Supply. They might be day-olds there, but I find in our area they tend to be a little bit older, a couple of days old. So that's another option, is going to a hatchery, going to Tractor Supply, or going to some other feed stores. Now, if you're in a hurry to get eggs, there's a third option. You could talk to a breeder that breeds chickens, and you could try to buy some pullets or some older hens. Now, chickens don't normally lay eggs until about 18 to 22 weeks. So by buying pullets that are already at the point of lay or older hens, you can save a lot of time if you need the eggs now. So it is important to remember though, if you decide to go with pullets or hens, it probably will cost more money, especially if they're at the point of lay. Another thing to ask yourself is, do you plan to keep your flock going by hatching eggs from your flock? If you do, you're going to need a rooster for that. If you just want eggs, a rooster's not required. If you absolutely cannot have a rooster where you live, then it might be a good idea to purchase chickens that from birth can be sexed. For example, the red sex lynx or the golden comets could be a good choice. This can let you know right from the beginning that you definitely do not have any roosters in the mix. Now, If you're starting out with hatchlings or day-old chicks, or even very young chicks, you're going to need some place to keep them when you bring them home, because they're not going to be feathered out yet, so they're not going to be ready to go out into your chicken coop right out of the gate. So what we like to do, we get cow waterers from Tractor Supply. We have two different kinds right now. We have one that's plastic and we have one that's metal. They're pretty large, but you can get them in different sizes. That's what we use to brood our chicks in. In addition to a place to keep them, you're going to need feed, and what you'll be feeding a new chick is chick crumble. Chick crumble comes in medicated and non-medicated versions. Really, whatever you choose is going to be your personal choice and how you feel about that. The third thing you're going to need is a heat source of some kind. Chicks need to be kept at roughly about 90 degrees for the first week, and then you can slowly decrease that temperature. So you are going to need some type of a heat source. We don't like using heat lamps here. We've almost burned down a chicken coop and a garage with heat lamps, so we try to avoid them. We typically just keep our chicks in by our wood stove, and they stay plenty warm next to the stove. But I do know that Brisney makes a brooder that chicks can just crawl underneath, and it keeps them warm. And from what I hear, it's safer than a heat lamp. So that might be something to check into as well. Now, one way that you can avoid having to heat your chicks for very long is by purchasing them in the summertime. If you purchase them in the colder months, you're going to definitely need to extend the time that you're heating your chicks. But if you get them in the summer months and it's like 85 or 90 degrees outside, that's going to be a lot easier, and it's going to cut your time down significantly from how long you're going to need to keep them warm. Now, chicks do not fully feather out until they're about 4 to 6 weeks old. However, I do keep my chicks at a slightly cooler temperature than what is recommended. Again, do your own research and do what's right for you, but that's just my personal opinion and the way I do it. I keep them a little bit cooler than the recommended temperatures, and they do seem to feather out a little bit more quickly. So again, do your own research on that. And you're also going to need bedding for your chicks. I start out, if I'm doing day-old chicks, I start out with newspaper, and I put some paper towels on top of that. That gives them a nice surface that gives them some grip, and they're not slipping all the time on that because it's not good for their legs. So I do that, and then when they're about a week old, I switch over to pine shavings for their bedding. Oh, and don't forget the water and the feeder. Now, if you're coming home with pullets or hens, you're not going to need to heat them. They're going to be feathered out, so they're going to be ready to go right outside to your coop. They are going to need a secure chicken coop and a run. And with your chicken coop, you're going to want about 4 square feet of space per bird inside your coop. And I would recommend at least double that out in your run. But of course, the more space you can give your birds in both coop and run, the better, in my opinion. If they're too crowded in the coop and the run, you will find, especially in the winter, they're gonna peck each other, and believe me, it can get nasty really quick with chickens if they're overcrowded. Not something that you want to experience. Now, when you're planning your chicken coop build, there are going to be 3 important factors, 3 things that are the most important to me anyway. The first thing is going to be having the appropriate amount of space. The second thing is it has to be safe. You don't want predators to be able to get into the coop and harass or kill your chickens. And third is ventilation. Chickens' droppings let off a lot of moisture and odor. And when chickens are breathing, they actually produce a lot of moisture as well. So you're going to want a really well-ventilated coop that allows those odors and that moisture to escape the coop and keep your birds comfortable and dry. Now, you may be asking yourself, how many chickens do you need? Well, that's going to depend on the amount of eggs that you use and the size of your family. However, A pretty safe number, if you're eating eggs regularly and using them for baking and recipes, a pretty safe number is going to be about 2 chickens per family member. If you're going to be getting chickens for the first time this year, we'd love to hear about it. Drop us a note in the comments and let us know what breed of chicken that you've decided to go with. Thanks so much for stopping by the homestead. We hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. Hey ladies.